Friends, it's Sister Marla Clerks from St. Elizabeth Ann Seton. A friend of mine, when she was in her early 20s, went into the Peace Corps, and she served for 3 years in Madagascar, followed by another 3 in Vietnam. When she came home, it was so interesting to talk to her about the experiences that she had, how the cultures were unique and different from our own, and also the people that she had met and how interesting their life stories were. She said what she missed the most about living in the States was the ability to have hot water whenever she wished, and also that we had good road systems compared to where she had lived. But she also talked about ways in which it was hard for her to return. And she classified those in 2 categories. First, she said she was overwhelmed by how many choices we had. She had gone into a grocery store and said she had to leave before purchasing anything because there were just too many options to pick from. Whereas when she had been in the Peace Corps, the food markets or the roadside stands were very limited in what they could offer. She also mentioned that it was difficult for her in feeling that we had lost a sense of concern for one another and had become very individualistic in the way we looked at life. And friends, as we compare those to our readings this weekend, we do not have multiple choices to make in this life of discipleship. In fact, we only have 2. We're reminded that we either say yes to God or we say no to God. We say yes to the law of love consistently in our lives, or we say no to it consistently or no to it at times. And yet we know that we are called to be those people who say yes to God. In fact, that is the definition of obedience. The word obedient actually means to hear, to listen to enough that we hear, and not just hear with our ears, but hear with our hearts, hear with that desire that we have in following God, in living lives of discipleship, so that our answer is always the yes. In the individualism or the lack of concern that we sometimes see or feel ourselves for one another, in the past years it seems that we've become much more into trying to defend our individual freedoms. I can do whatever I want. The choices are mine to make. I worry about number 1 first. I can say whatever I wish. Doesn't matter who it harms or maybe some of the violence that it invokes. And yet that's not the definition of that free will that God has given us. It doesn't mean that this life is only about us. In fact, this life that we have been given is to be that gift for others, to remind us that it's not just about making life comfortable and lined up with where we see it should be. So as we continue to listen to our heart, as we listen to that voice of God in our lives, that free will to follow God's commandments or not, to follow God's invitation to love or not, to follow that concern for others that we are always to have in our hearts or not, to share whatever we have been given or not. And friends, we know that the answer lies in that free will of choosing yes to faith, of choosing yes to others, of choosing yes to love.